The idea of 40 Days for Love started in 2008, when I was a senior in high school. I was part of the first major program for the Theology of the Body for Teens in the Archdiocese of Louisville. For 12 weeks that fall, we had over 50 teenagers show up for every single session. During that same time now, the movie Fireproof came out, and I received a book called The Love Daighre, the same book that was featured in the movie. But because I wasn't married, I didn't give it much thought. It just didn't apply to me. So I put it out of my mind. 3 years passed, and I was a junior here at WKU. Right after I got home from World Youth Day in Madrid, I began to understand what it meant to live out our faith in our daily lives. After all, there wasn't a bigger mountaintop I could climb than World Youth Day, right? So I began my long descent. And what an experience it was. At the time, I had just joined the Angelic Warfare Confraternity, an official group of prayer warriors dedicated to courageously living out the daily lifestyle of chastity. It's everything I ever wanted to do in my own relationship. I just never understood how. I was also heavily involved in the pro-life movement, and by this time, with Hilltoppers for Life, we were praying in front of abortion clinics on a regular basis. Whenever life was at stake, our group was there to fight for it, and the support base for pro-life students felt unbelievably strong. In October of 2011, God hit me hard. I was looking things up about living out the call to manhood and what it means to stand up for true love. The Men of Jesus Christ were the first ones I found, and I was blown away. Because of their intense work against pornography and the accountability I saw in their brotherhood, I started to see things more clearly. When their efforts led to the actual closing of an adult bookstore, everything suddenly clicked. St. Thomas Aquinas was a champion for chastity. His life inspired the creation of the Angelic Warfare Confraternity. And when the idea of 40 Days for Love hit me, I was sitting on a couch at the St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic Campus Center. It was unbelievable. If all our work for the pro-life movement was so devoted to prayerful action and strong accountability, especially during the 40th year of legal abortion in America, shouldn't our attitude toward love be the same? On Valentine's Day of 2011, Father Mike Williams and Mary Redding of the same Catholic Campus Center made a bold decision, and it has changed all of our lives forever. We began having men's and women's groups to talk about the deepest questions and experiences we have in life. And we didn't just launch into the deep stuff right away. We took the time to establish relationships with each other. And since then, this place has absolutely flourished. So with the strength I saw in pro-life activism and the amazing results of 40 Days for Life, coupled with the love and accountability I felt at St. Thomas Aquinas, 40 Days for Love only made sense. But then I had to take a step back. I couldn't let my excitement get the best of me. So I ran up to the chapel and fell before the Eucharist to make sure this wasn't some crazy idea of mine. And soon enough, the tagline for Theology of the Body for Teens came to mind. God's plan for love and life. I couldn't deny it anymore. It wasn't about the mountaintop experience of World Youth Day or Ignite Your Torch or NCYC or Tech. It was about living out that loving encounter with Christ every single day. And what better way to do it than through a college campus in the Angelic Warfare Confraternity? So that's what we did this fall. Beginning on November 15th, the 40 days before Christmas, we put all our efforts into praying and talking about love and chastity every single day. We sent out daily devotionals via email and Facebook, just like 40 Days for Life. We had books out about theology of the body. We prayed together after Mass and night prayer for the strengthening of chastity throughout the world. We had Eucharistic adoration and said a litany of purity every week. Countless petitions were written, hundreds of people were reached, and the word continues to spread. Over the summer, when some of my friends from Ignite Your Torch talked to me about doing this, we saw it immediately as something as big as 40 Days for Life. And to be honest, we were terrified of it. I, of course, blew it out of proportion, but I knew something like this could be that big one day. However, I also knew how 40 Days for Life began, and I think it's similar to how this devotional has to begin. Personally. You see, I experienced my own 40 Days for Love back in February of 2012. Because it was the first time I personally tried to live out God's plan for love on a daily basis. The intensity of it all was difficult. And then, as this year has progressed, I thought back to that book that was on my shelf all this time. The Love Daighre. How appropriate of a word to use to describe such a noble commitment. Men dare each other to do things all the time. That's just in our nature. But what would happen if an entire community dared each other to live out love on a daily basis? What would the results be? This Lent, St. Thomas Aquinas is planning to do it all over again. This time, however, with the experience of a more personal campaign behind them, we hope to bring a new aspect of 40 Days for Love to fruition. The 3 tiers of 40 Days for Life are also what we hope to embody in this pro-love movement. The first is prayer and fasting, perfect elements of the liturgical season of Lent. The second is community outreach, exactly what the center does every day. The third element, though, is a bit more challenging, and it requires somewhat of a dare to do it. Peaceful vigil. For 40 days, then, we hope to stand peaceful vigil, even if it's once a week, for at least an hour, outside an adult bookstore, or some place that needs our loving attention. For this mission, to do such a daring action would be unprecedented, because the accountability and strength behind it would be something this culture simply would not understand. But it has to be done. If we really care about the strengthening of love in this culture, shouldn't we take an active stand for it? Isn't love just as important a thing to protect as life? After all, in the most sacred sexual union of marriage, isn't love just as sacred as the life that results from it? If it is, then we should be willing to die for it. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that those who believe in him might not perish, but have eternal life. Love and life are equal. And here, at the St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic Campus Center in Bowling Green, Kentucky, we have decided to take that stand. We hope to God others will join us.